He might seem attractive, at least to some of you, but neither his wife nor anyone else had any idea that behind that innocent smile were dark, sneaky, and absolutely horrifying secrets. Andre could have looked like a guy who had it all: a beautiful wife, a kid, fancy stuff, vacations, and online popularity. But let's just say, the way he handled his success and money wasn't just irresponsible, it was straight up dumb. And if you're thinking that once he realized his plans were falling apart, he'd change, think again. Because, honestly, he hit rock bottom just to claw his way out of a hole he dug himself. Hey guys, welcome to my channel about truly horrifying stories here. Every case has a face. Every crime has its own story. I'm just getting started, so I'd love it if you'd drop a comment telling me which story you want to hear next, and also what I could tweak to make my videos more comfortable for you to watch. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get started. On May 25th, 2020, the Rebello family from Perth, Australia, got news no one ever wants to hear. To give you a clearer picture, the family included 58-year-old Colleen Rebello and her 4 adult kids, Monique, Fabian, Julian, and Andre. Even though the 2 oldest had already moved out, the youngest son, Fabian, and daughter Monique were still living at home with their mom. That day, like usual, Fabian was working his shift at the local supermarket. Normally, his mom would not only drive him to work, but also pick him up afterward. Came, and she still hadn't shown up. He immediately felt that something was wrong. He called his mom a few times, but got nothing. Finally, he decided to walk home. When he got to the door, he heard the sound of running water from the bathroom. He went inside and called out, "Mom, you okay?" But all he got was silence. He walked over to the bathroom door and knocked, still no response. Then, worried, Fabian worked up the courage to go inside. And what he saw, oh my God, it would haunt him for the rest of his life. His mom was lying completely still under the running water. Fabian immediately called an ambulance and started doing CPR right there on the bathroom floor. But, unfortunately, there was nothing that could be done. Colleen Rebello was dead. The paramedics arrived within minutes, tried to revive her, but, unfortunately, they had to pronounce her dead. She left behind loving kids, friends, and some new coworkers. At first, her death seemed completely natural, but just a few weeks and then months later, strange, unsettling details started to surface. And let's just say, things were way more complicated than they seemed at first. But before we dive into how and why all of this happened, let's first talk about who this woman really was. Colleen was an amazing mom, caring, sincere, and always ready to do anything for her kids. After a bitter divorce from their father, Colleen became a single mom and raised her children mostly on her own. But that didn't stop her from going to university to build a fuller, better future for herself and her kids. She had just started a new job in the Department of Health only 2 weeks before her death, after several years working night shifts and at a cafe. You could say that, academically, she had only recently reached her peak, and now she was ready to enjoy the fruits of her hard work. She was proud of herself and genuinely excited about what was ahead. Besides being smart, Colleen always took care of her health. That was especially important because she lived with Hashimoto's disease, an autoimmune disorder that affects the thyroid. It's not exactly fun, but despite it, Colleen felt happy, energetic, and overall was in good shape. Remember I mentioned that Colleen had 4 kids? We've already met the youngest 19-year-old Fabian. He was a really sweet guy, working at the local supermarket at the time his mom tragically passed away. Next, there's her older son, Julian. By that point, he was already living outside of Perth. Not much is known about him, except that he was far from home during all these events. Her only daughter, Monique, had a somewhat similar story. She had also moved out at some point, but had temporarily returned home while studying to become a paramedic. Like Fabian, she had seen her mom that morning and later recalled that Colleen had looked completely healthy and calm. And finally, her son Andre. Andre was in a pretty unique situation. The best way to introduce him is alongside his ex-partner Gracie, because, unfortunately, she also got pulled into this story. So, where do we even start? Gotta give him some credit at least once. He actually made a whopping $22 on crypto. Yeah, I know, not exactly a fortune, but hey, it's something. Behind the scenes, though, Colleen's mom was seriously worried about her son's activities, both in crypto and on social media. She had every right to doubt that this lifestyle would last. I mean, what happens when the fame fades? And, honestly, if this was all just temporary, Why were Andre and Gracie spending so insanely on luxury stuff? From the outside, their life looked perfect. A huge house, a Range Rover Evoque, designer clothes, vacations several times a year. But, as you've probably guessed, the reality was a whole different story. Take that Range Rover, for example. You might think they bought it outright, but nope, it was financed. And every month, the couple barely managed to make the payments. They didn't actually own any real assets, not even the house. Everything was paid month to month, and their bank account barely had anything left. Their financial situation was extremely shaky. You could say Gracie was in a way better position than Andre. She had her own business and could, if needed, quickly make more money. Andre, on the other hand, his crypto career was producing zero results. By May of 2020, the couple already had joint debts of over 120,000 Australian dollars. And in that same month, suddenly and without warning, Andre's mom died. The day started off with excitement and happy plans. Andre had arranged to spend time with Gracie and her cousin, who had come to visit. The three of them were planning to go out for lunch, and Gracie was really looking forward to it. But by around noon, everything changed. At roughly midday, Andre just vanished. No word, no warning, no hint. He simply disappeared. No text, no call, nothing. At first, a confused Gracie tried not to panic. She figured maybe Andre just stepped out for a few minutes. But minutes turned into hours, and her worry started to grow. She sent him messages, tried calling nothing. Wherever he was, it was like Andre had dropped off the face of the earth. Between 11:10 and 11:25 in the morning, Gracie was getting seriously nervous. In just 15 minutes, she had already called her husband 12 times. By 11:16, her patience completely snapped. She sent him a string of messages. "Pick up the phone. Where are you?" Minutes ticked by, but there was still no reply. Her next messages got increasingly anxious and frustrated. "Don't you have a phone? What's wrong with you?" Sure, Gracie had probably lost a little bit of her cool, but Andre still didn't respond. Then she shot him a short, sharp message. "Answer, damn it," and followed it up with, "I'm literally going crazy with anger." The hours crawled by. Gracie was boiling mad and couldn't wrap her head around how Andre could just vanish, leaving her and her cousin waiting. And then, around 2 p.m., Andre finally showed up at home. As if nothing had happened, he calmly walked into the house, looking completely indifferent, and asked where they wanted to go for lunch. Gracie was just frozen. How could he act so calm after all of that? Yeah, he often left his phone on silent, but this time, his behavior was just plain strange, even for him. Before they headed out to lunch, Andre messaged his mom asking her to watch their son, maybe that day or the next. He said he had things to do and couldn't stay with the kid. But, just like earlier that day, his mom didn't respond to a single message. And, as it turned out, he wasn't the only one who couldn't get in touch with her. Around the same time, a few suburbs away, his younger brother Fabian was finishing his shift at the local supermarket. His workday was only 4 hours long, but for a retail worker, that can feel like forever. Colleen had driven him to work that morning, around 10 a.m., promising to pick him up in 4 hours. But by 2 p.m., she was nowhere to be found. Fabian called his mom over a dozen times, nothing. Messages from him and from his sister Monique went unanswered. And that's when both of them realized something was seriously wrong. With a heavy heart, Fabian rushed home. The moment he stepped inside, he heard the sound of running water from his mom's bathroom. And, well, as you already know, that's how it all ended. On May 25th, 2020, Colleen Rebello was found dead in her own home. Her death was sudden and completely unexpected, but at the time, the police didn't see anything suspicious. As you can imagine, the Rebello family was devastated. The loss of their mother completely shattered their world. But no one even considered the possibility, just maybe, that this wasn't a natural death. The doctors knew she did have heart issues. It could have been caused by arrhythmia or even a brain aneurysm. On top of that, she had Hashimoto's disease. So given all those factors, there were definitely risks. Adding to that, the police confirmed that all doors and windows in the house were locked at the time of Colleen's death, so there were no signs of a break-in. As for the autopsy results, they couldn't determine a definitive cause of death. But even that seemed like a good sign. At least there was no reason to think she'd been murdered. All the kids also firmly rejected the idea of suicide. Colleen had just finished her master's degree, started a new job, was feeling happy, and showed no signs of depression. So, while her death was a massive tragedy, everyone believed it was from natural causes. But that's when Julian started noticing something strange about his brother Andre's behavior. He was acting really odd around the time of their mom's death, and over time, it only got worse. It all started when Julian decided to stay in Perth for a few months after their mom passed to sort out her affairs. During that time, he went through her documents to figure out her finances and settle her accounts. The first red flag came when he noticed that her driver's license was missing. When he asked his siblings where it could be, Andre said he had taken it himself, and even took the initiative to handle their mom's affairs. This shocked Julian because that was completely out of character for Andre, plus Julian was supposed to be the executor of the will. But, as often happens, one thing led to another, and by the end of the day, Julian discovered that Colleen had multiple life insurance policies in her name. The weird part? He had never heard of them before and had no details at all. It later came to light that, just 2 weeks before their mother's death, Andre had taken out not 1, not 2, but 3 life insurance policies on her. And while that, in itself, wasn't illegal, it looked extremely suspicious because he hadn't taken out insurance on himself, his wife, their child, or any of his siblings. Only on his mother. The total value of these policies exceeded $1 million. And given the timing right before her death, it looked incredibly shady. On top of that, all of Colleen's mail was now being redirected to Andre, even though no one in the family had asked for it. And keep in mind, Monique and Fabian were still living in their mom's house. So, why redirect the mail? Also, although Julian was supposed to be the one contacting the coroner, suddenly all calls were being routed straight to Andre. Slowly, the tragic story of their mother's death started to look like a chess game, and Andre seemed to be a few moves ahead. But the suspicious discoveries didn't stop there. Colleen's psychologist called Monique to ask why forged documents had been submitted to the insurance company in Colleen's name documents that she definitely hadn't written herself. The family hadn't even had a chance to take action against Andre because the insurance companies acted first. When one of the 3 insurance companies noticed several discrepancies in the submitted documents, they immediately suspected fraud. That's when they contacted the Western Australia police, and law enforcement quickly zeroed in on Andre. 5 months after their mother's death, all 4 of her children were called in for questioning. Meanwhile, the police obtained search warrants not only for Colleen's house but also for Andre and Gracie's home. By that very evening, the investigators were so confident in their findings that they arrested Andre on suspicion of fraud. Detectives discovered that he had not only forged their mother's medical certificate, but also her will and even the coroner's report. And worst of all, he made himself the sole beneficiary of her entire estate. That meant all of Colleen's money and property would go only to him, not to his brothers or sister. It wasn't just disgusting, it was a devastating blow to Monique, Fabian, and Julian. Their own brother had basically erased them from their mother's life. And now, the 3 of them were faced with an even scarier question. Could he have actually killed their mother? After these serious charges, Andre was released on bail while investigators continued gathering evidence. Maybe he thought the police wouldn't be able to prove his fraud. But, as it turned out, the detectives uncovered way more than anyone expected. Before we go further, it's important to note that Gracie had absolutely nothing to do with these crimes. She wasn't involved in any of the fraud. This was later confirmed when the police, after getting an official search warrant, monitored their house. Investigators installed a listening device in Gracie's bedroom and a camera in their living room. From September 9th to December 7th, the police were tracking everything happening in the house around the clock. Through these recordings, they caught numerous admissions from Andre about his fraud, but it also became crystal clear that Gracie knew nothing. On the tapes, you can hear her say things like, "What have you done? You've gotten us into total crap. Why would you do this? This is so stupid." She also expressed her fear of being left alone with their child and asked, "How do you even pull off insurance scams? And what were you planning to do, run away?" To which Andre replied, "I didn't think it would go this far. But I'm not going to jail. I'll get the money and leave the country before they lock me up." Despite all of this, Andre continued living as if nothing had happened. For the next 2 years, he lived calmly with Gracie. They even kept making vlogs and social media videos, showing off their luxurious life. But he had no idea time was working against him, and soon he'd be eating his own words about going to prison. In November 2022, after a thorough investigation, detectives officially arrested Andre Rebello on charges of murdering his mother. The prosecution's case was straightforward. Andre and Gracie were flaunting a luxurious lifestyle on social media, partly funded by sponsorships, but at the same time using credit cards and personal loans And while Gracie could make a decent amount of money on her own, Andre had been lying to her about his crypto business. He kept claiming he was making huge profits from crypto assets, but the money was temporarily frozen, and they were supposedly about to cash in big. The harsh reality? Andre didn't have a single dime. In court, it was proven that at the time of Colleen's death, Andre and Gracie's combined debt totaled 121,000 Australian dollars. They had no real assets and barely any money left in their accounts. Sure, the pressure Andre was under was huge, but he created that pressure himself. He lied to Gracie about his income, kept up the illusion of a luxurious lifestyle, and now as a husband and father, next to a successful woman, he felt the need to prove his worth. According to the prosecution, that need was the trigger for his crime. Andre took out multiple life insurance policies on his mother, made himself the sole beneficiary, and killed her in cold blood. If his plan had worked, he could have presented part of the payout as profits from crypto investments, confirming his image as a successful crypto king. Unfortunately for him, several months passed between Colleen's death and the moment the case was officially treated as a murder. By then, the police couldn't get surveillance footage from nearby cameras, but instead, they had a very clear paper trail leading straight to Andre. His email exchanges with multiple insurance companies revealed a suspicious pattern. He always found ways to bypass obstacles using forged documents. Every move he made basically incriminated him. Among the forgeries were a fake will, a fake medical report, and a fake coroner's conclusion. On top of that, he even used AI to create a fake voice message pretending to be his mother's psychologist. In court, Andre tried to justify himself, claiming his mother was supposedly afraid of getting old and wanted insurance policies to protect her children and grandchildren. But the prosecutors rightly pointed out, if that were true, why were all the policies issued exclusively in Andre's name and not divided among all 4 children? Detective Sergeant Jason Hutchinson told the court that during a forensic examination of Andre's laptop, investigators found that all internet activity from December 2019 to July 2020 had been wiped. However, Andre forgot to delete a few search queries made after his mother's death. Some of these included phrases like, coroner's aneurysm causes, Word document assist, inquest. Additionally, digital analysis of his mobile phone showed that Andre's device had connected to cell towers near his mother's house right around the time she likely died. And several witnesses reported seeing a white Land Rover Vogue Andre's car near her house at around 1:30 in the afternoon. All of this matched the description of Andre's car perfectly. Here's what's factually confirmed. Colleen had dropped her son off at the local supermarket at 10 in the morning, but by 2 in the afternoon, she hadn't shown up to pick him up. That created a 4-hour window during which she could have died, and there's plenty of evidence pointing to Andre being with her during that time. This is backed up by testimonies from Gracie and phone records, ping data from Andre's mobile connecting to several towers in the area, and the fact that his Range Rover Vogue was seen near the house. All of this happened just a week after he had taken out multiple life insurance policies in Colleen's name, naming himself as the sole beneficiary and creating fake documents to access the money. While the prosecution didn't have direct evidence like video of Andre killing his mother, there was more than enough circumstantial evidence to make the case nearly airtight. The prosecution also pointed out that even though Andre tried to make his mother's death look natural and took steps to act carefully, he made several mistakes that gave him away. For example, police photos showed Colleen lying in the shower with her makeup intact and wearing jewelry, including a gold watch. She would never have gone into the shower wearing those things, it just didn't make sense. Her hair was tied back, and the bath mat she usually used in the shower was still on the edge of the tub. The scene was poorly staged, which really wasn't surprising given his lack of foresight. Andre denied all murder charges but admitted to taking out 3 life insurance policies on his mother and forging documents to collect one of them. His defense suggested possible natural causes of death, like heart arrhythmia or a brain aneurysm. However, the coroner's inability to determine an exact cause made the case heavily reliant on circumstantial evidence. The stakes were high. If convicted, Andre faced life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom atmosphere was incredibly tense. Jury deliberations began on December 3, 2024, and just 2 days later, the jury returned a unanimous verdict. Andre Rebello was officially found guilty of murdering his mother. He is expected to receive life imprisonment without the possibility of early release. Andre's father, Antonio, who attended the trial, was visibly upset by the news way more than Andre himself, who barely showed any emotion when the verdict was announced. The trial is officially over, and the sentencing will happen next year, in 2025. It's worth emphasizing again. Gracie had absolutely no idea about Andre's plans. She didn't know about the payout, the beneficiary change, the murder, or even the life insurance policies. Honestly, she was just the partner of a really stupid man who was plotting to deceive her. Andre's actions didn't just destroy the lives of his mother, siblings, and Gracie, they also robbed Gracie of a happy first marriage and her child of an innocent biological father. The media were harsh on her, even though she probably suffered just as much as the rest of the Rebello family. Over the past year, Gracie has found a new partner who seems to love not only her but her son as well. And I truly hope that he's the one who can give her the calm and stability she deserves. And finally, we can't forget Colleen Rebello. She was an extraordinary woman, known for her dedication and love for her family. Despite all the challenges of being a single mom, she put herself through university to create a better future not just for herself, but for her children and future grandchild too. You could tell she was committed to improving herself in almost every aspect of life: family, health, education, and career. Her sudden and unexpected death left her family and friends in deep sorrow, but her legacy as a loving mother and devoted professional will forever live on in the hearts of those who valued her. Although this case relied almost entirely on circumstantial evidence, it was strong and convincing enough. Now, what do you think? Was it enough evidence? Do you believe Andre really killed his mother? And do you think what we've seen here is enough to convict him? Share your thoughts in the comments below. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.